if I could encourage any business to really think about how to be innovative on this front, is not only to think experientially, but to think like a human being. So voice assistance is, I think we all think about it as Alexa or Google Home or Siri, but it's actually a bigger movement in that it's changing, not just in the United States, just around the world, our expectations of how we interact with technology. So we might say, Alexa, what's the weather today? We'll get the weather, and we might even say thank you. Saying thank you to a device is nonsensical, but we do that because we're starting to humanize technology in a way that is becoming part of our everyday life, as an extension of what we do and how we do it. So it's actually what we call the assistance economy. So we are leaning on our devices through voice in ways that we never thought were possible. So what that does is starts to unlock new opportunities for interaction. Why that's important is that businesses or anybody on the other side of that voice, when information is sought, you need to be part of that. Much like if you search in Google, for example, what's the best restaurant in Austin, Texas for barbecue? You're going to get responses. And that's because people have programmed those responses on the other side to help feed you the information you need to find what you're looking for. And it fine-tunes that information based on your behavior and your patterns. So I think that businesses, companies, organizations in general now have to think about life on the other side of voice. What comes back when you ask a question to sort of facilitate that assistance economy a little bit more effectively. I would say that this is an opportunity for businesses to take advantage of this moment, and that means that you have to think about information as an experience. So when I'm asked what are the companies that are doing it right, you have a lot of examples like pizza companies, and you have weather companies that are on the other side of information, but they're very transactional. So they're not thinking experientially. And I think that businesses who think about the moment and then what happens next, and then what happens next, create an experience for that voice interaction to actually not only transact, but to just become a greater staple in someone's day-to-day activities. So it's indispensable. That's a different type of user experience and user interface approach than most companies are thinking about. Because I think a lot of companies are approaching this like search. If that. There's a lot to learn and a lot to grow. But I think what if I could encourage any business to really think about how to be innovative on this front, is not only to think experientially, but to think like a human being. Beyond the transaction, how do you add value in return? Because essentially you have a captive audience. You have someone who's intentionally asking a question or asking the device to do something. You need an experienced architect to create a new type of series of activities and actions and exchanges that don't exist today. And so we don't need a better search. We don't need a voice-assisted interaction. I mean, if we do, but what we do need is something magical, something better than what we've never imagined before. I refer to these times as digital Darwinism, which is technology evolves, as with voice, for example, but so does society. So using voice, people are learning how to interact with devices differently. Once you interact with the device, that becomes the standard for how you want to engage with something or someone. If you add a skill to Alexa, most of the time it's iterative. So it's iteration and not innovation. You're essentially doing something new with new things based on what you could do yesterday, but you're not actually creating new value, which is the difference between iteration and innovation. Innovation is doing new things that create new value, and then eventually you can get to disruption, which is doing new things that make the old things obsolete. My goodness. So we're here at South by Southwest, and we're here specifically during Interactive, which is where all the geeks are, myself included. And just last night where we were having drinks over this very conversation, and I think the most interesting thing that's already starting to be experimented with in public is thinking what you want and then having that information returned to you. There's all kinds of very interesting devices that you can put on your head that are starting to sense the waves, the thoughts, and hopefully return to you useful information or experiences beyond AR and VR in ways that you can just think something to happen. I don't know how close that is, but that's the next thing.